So let's create the methods for the events. So all these get methods will be a task because we will use async. So the first task will be of type event. And what we want to do is to simply return all the events. So it's gonna be an event of collection. So I'll use the arrays and we'll call it get events. Now I don't want to just get all the events. I want the user to have an option to also include all the gigs that belong to the events. So this will be an optional parameter in the URI. So here we will use a boolean and I'll call the parameter include gigs, and by default I'll set it to false. So if this is not used in the URI, we assume the user does not want to include gigs and we will only return the events. Now of course I need to bring in the namespace from the comedy events.models, and the next one, again, it's gonna be a task of type event, and we will want to return only single event by the ID. So the user will provide an ID of the event and we will return all the information about it. So I'll call it get event, and once again I want to use the boolean include gigs with it. So the user may want just a single event or also include the gigs that belong to that one particular event. And finally we want a task of event, but we want to return a collection of events based on the date. So the user will enter a date and we will return all the events for that date. So let's call it get events by date. And again, we can use the boolean for include gigs, but before that I also need to pass the parameter of datetime for the date for which the user wants the events. So we'll pass that as a parameter, and then as an optional parameter we'll pass the boolean for include gigs. So next let's do the gigs.